What's up, guys? Kris Krohn here, and we are going to do the age-old debate, but see if we can finally solve it. Today, we're talking about stocks versus real estate. I've clearly done millions of dollars here, but I need to find someone that I can duel with that's done millions of dollars here, and I got news for you. I've got just the man for you. I got my buddy Mike. Mike, how we doing?
Awesome. Couldn't be better.
Dude, are you ready to put your dukes up and let's go at it?
Let's go, Kris.
One shot, now the future is yours. Go! I'm turning dreams into reality. Yeah, it's one shot, now the future is yours. Go!
All right, guys, Kris Krohn here, and I'm with my buddy Mikey out on the East Coast. And this should be an interesting conversation because Mikey's been a member of my private investment club for the last year since I actually started it. And I've gotten to know his financial background. And I'll tell you what, this dude loves business, but he loves the stock market. It is like his sacred cow. So for all intents and purposes today, when we talk about stocks versus real estate, be aware that there's this huge conversation out there in the world where some people say, oh, real estate is where you should put your money to grow it and to be successful. And there's other people that say, are you kidding me? The stock market is 100% where you should keep your money. It's where you should grow it. Today, we're going to look at the data. We're going to compare them. We're going to look at the strengths, the weaknesses, the pros, the cons. And today is an opportunity for you to call it for you at the end of this video. Are you gonna create your wealth on the left, on the right? Is it real estate or is it stocks? Mikey, what is up, brother? It's great to connect with you today.
What is happening, Kris? How are you?
Dude, I'm doing so great. Listen, I know that you've crushed it with owning franchises, restaurants. We've done real estate together. There's a variety of projects, but you are nonetheless just 100% just stuck on this stock thing. Like it's your thing. You love it. Can you just tell me why?
Yeah, man. I mean, let's look at it. The stock market, the S&P 500, has been around for years now. It's the top 500 companies in America. And I wouldn't rather bet on anything more than the top 500 companies in America.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. We talk about these top 500 blue chip companies, and we're talking about the companies to get excited about. When you take a look at Uber, when you take a look at Airbnb, when you take a look at Apple, and you take a look at Amazon, these are companies that once upon a time shot through the roof in their valuation, and now they've plateaued off. And so you got to think about it. You now are taking the average winnings of the top 500 most stable companies. And the good news is they're not really going to go down. If the market goes down, they're going to come right back up because they don't really lose their value. And they're going to keep trekking because they're tried and they're proven. And we're going to look at what that ROI is. And then we're going to compare it to what real estate's ROI is. And we're going to basically see, how today's debate is going to end with whether you should be more excited about real estate or more excited about the stock market. Mikey, what are you most excited about?
Kris, I am most excited about the S&P 500.
All right, let's actually dive in. All right, let's look straight at the data. This comes from Investopedia, and we're gonna talk about history since 1975. Check this out. Based on average home prices tracked by the Home Price Index, if you invested $100 in 1975, your investment would grow to $928 by 2022. By the way, that's pretty exciting. We are talking about a 47-year gap, but basically you're getting almost a 10x just on the appreciation value. A similar $100 investment, however, in the S&P 500 at the beginning of 1975 would yield approximately $19,351 in 2022, provided all dividends were reinvested. Now, I don't know about you, but the difference between 928 and 19,351 makes it look like real estate is a clear loser. And at this point, Mikey, brother, you are 100% for sure winning the debate. What do you think about them apples?
Yeah, man, that gets me excited. I mean, that's where I want to put my money, right? That's why my money's there. That's why my millions are there. I'm here to earn, that average of 10% every single year. And there's going to be some downturns, but that's okay because it recovers.
And by the way, this is a guy who's in a downturn right now, and he knows it's going to recover because this is a cycle. And right now, just right here alone, 19,000 compared to 900 is literally 20 times more money in the S&P. Here's the question. Is appreciation the only real value that real estate has to offer? Let's evaluate. So let's do actually a quick comparison because that's a huge disparity from $900 to $19,000. Let's take a look at stocks versus real estate compared first of all to average ROI from 92 to 2022. Well, yep, your stocks are producing somewhere around that 9.6%, basically that 10% that the S&P boasts. That's the average after taking the lows and the highs. Real estate, however, on appreciation is sitting at 5.3%, almost half. And by the way, if you understand the power of compound interest over 47 years, double the ROI could create literally 20 times more money in how those things grow. So this does make sense so far, but not everything is as it seems. Next, we take a look at tax advantages. The stocks don't have that, but there's a benefit that isn't being calculated here. Real estate actually has some tax benefits. You can actually depreciate the property over 27 and a half years. That is going to have an impact on those earnings that wasn't talked about previously. On top of that, there's an actual tangible value of real estate, like it's something that you can touch, it's something that you can hold. The stock market, you can't do that. Now, that means that the stock market is more of a soft asset and real estate is more of a hard asset. And here's what that means. When we hit inflationary times, soft assets, they lose their value at the rate of inflation. Hard assets usually do the opposite. They gain at the rate of inflation. So during inflationary times like we're in, there is also a benefit to holding something like real estate. Next, let's talk about asset control. Like when you put money into the stock market, it's passive. You don't get to call up the chairman of the board. You don't get to show up on site and be a person of value. You own a piece of that company, but you don't really get to do a whole lot of anything. Although online, you might be able to actually cast your vote with a lot of other shareholders, but you basically have little to no asset control. Real estate, you have tons of control. You can buy it or you can sell it. You can transact it, you can trade it. And then we have to address risk, right? The stock market, even Mikey said it, it goes up and down. There's some volatility with that. But if you take a look at the game of real estate, it doesn't usually move as volatilely. So the stock market, by the way, can shoot up, it can shoot down. It has good days, it has bad days. Real estate doesn't move that way. It doesn't have good and bad days. It moves slowly in what I would call, at least for me, very predictable patterns. Next, however, we get to this one. Is this easy for beginners? Is this something that a beginner can do? And I'm going to tell you right now that stocks is way easier than the game of real estate, right? Like anyone can throw some money in the S&P 500. That is definitely a plus. Frankly, I think that's why so many people do it. And real estate, by comparison, definitely a lot tougher. Even if you choose a strategy that's passive, I have to go look for a property, I have to drive, I have to see it, I've got to talk, communicate with people, I've got to put offers out there. I mean, even in the acquisition process, it's way more hands-on. And as a result, even though they say 90% of millionaires made their million in real estate, the reason why so many don't is because there is some activity associated with it. And that brings us to the last comparison. Is this time consuming? Stock market, definitely not time consuming, but real estate, it's definitely going to be because there's a certain level of activity associated with it. So when you look at all of this, it's like, wait a second here. These things are very different from each other, but more importantly, there are some benefits of real estate that haven't been calculated because the truth is, appreciation isn't everything. This is just one of the components to how a person grows and wins financially. So Mikey, just curious, give me your pulse on that. Like, what's your temperature read on that pros and cons list?
Yeah, Kris, that's nice tonight. But I got to tell you, when I think about real estate, I think a lot of headaches happen with rentals. Something's always broken. The roof needs to be replaced. Foundations cracked, plumbing, appliances, garage doors rot. So much more simple to put it in, earn your 10%, and sit back and relax.
Got it. So for you, I think ease is something that is really important. And you know what? Undeniably, if you have enough time at that 10%, it definitely grows into something meaningful. Does it concern you, though, that you might be missing out on some of the other benefits that we started teasing there in real estate, some of the tax benefits that are a big thing, or maybe the tangible benefit of what happens to real estate when you're experiencing inflation like we are right now?
Of course it does. Of course it does. Something, I play a game of arbitrage though. And so I arbitrage my account and I use it to put it into some real estate. So I still gain on my real estate and then gain on my stock portfolio at the same time. So I'm actually doubling down.
How do you actually do that? How are you able to leverage against your portfolio and put it into other investments?
Oh, it's great. So I go to my brokerage and I go through Goldman Sachs, and we leverage the account, and we get 80% of the value, and we're able to take that money, invest it into real estate, and get the returns on my real estate and my stock portfolio, all on my S&P. All my portfolio is earning on the S&P.
What do they charge you to be able to borrow money out of that?
About 3 to 5%.
Okay, so basically you can access some of the money, and for you, it's a little bit of a double dip strategy.
Oh, big time, big time. I love it.
All right, well, let's not look so much at history. Let's look at practical application. Let's do an example with the stock market today, and we're gonna take a value of $60,000. This could be $60,000 that you have literally saved up of cash that is sitting in your bank account. It could be sitting in a 401k or an IRA, and you make this decision. I'm gonna invest that in the S&P 500, and I'm shooting for that average rate of 9.5, 10%. And what's gonna happen within just 1 year of time? Well, 10% on 60,000 would yield you somewhere around $6,600. That would then bring your 60,000 plus that gain to a total of $6,600. Now, if you fast forward that and compound that for 5 years, your account's gonna grow from 60,000 5 years later. It's now gonna be $98,917, not including what you would owe in capital gains taxes. So basically you're going from 60,000 to $100,000 over a 5-year period of time. Mikey, does that get you excited?
Oh man, that gets me real excited, Kris. I love it.
So check this out. Let's take a look at real estate and do a similar example. Let's say again that you have $60,000, but this time you use it as a down payment on property. Now in real estate, you have the ability to do something called leverage, and you usually get a 5-to-1 leverage with the bank. And that means that $60,000 could buy you basically a $300,000 property, because banks really like to lend on real estate. It's very predictable for them. You get a cash flow assume of $500 a month from rent, so there's your $6,000 a year. It's not $6,600 like we saw, but guess what? They're very similar to each other. But the property, in addition to that cash flow, is also appreciating at, we'll take that average number, 5.3% annually, and that's gonna be around $15,900 a year. In 5 years, you're gonna have around $109,500 in return. You add that to your total, you're now sitting at $169,500. Now this is a little confusing. Remember, in the stock example, we went from 60,000 to 100,000. On this one, how do we go from 60,000 to 169,000, almost $110,000 increase? Well, that's because generally speaking, this $60,000 of cash can buy $60,000 of stock. In real estate, $60,000 of cash can buy $300,000 of real estate. And what it does is it amplifies the ROI by a factor of 5, which is why we're getting a lot more here, and we're getting something else. We're actually getting cash that you get to keep in your pocket. And Mikey, is that one of the reasons why you also will borrow against your stock portfolio to put into real estate?
Absolutely. I mean, that's huge when you can double dip and you can get both returns, and you can get five times the return here, and I'm still getting my 10% here. It's fantastic.
And come here, check this out. There's one more thing. There is the cash flow, there is the appreciation, but then there's the tax benefit. And when you start adding all of those up, real estate on average is not doing 10% like the S&P. For me, on the low side, it's 25%, up to 35% on average. And that means that there's definitely value in both of them, but it also starts saying, wait a second, appreciation isn't everything. The strategy of how you're leveraging real estate gets to add a lot more to that overall ROI. So in the beginning, it definitely looked like the S&P was kicking real estate's trash, but when you take leverage and tax benefits and cash flow into account, the difference here over 5 years is $98,000 compared to $169,000. And ultimately, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that say, well, it's gotta be one or the other. It's either the stock market or it's the game of real estate. And traditionally people don't do what Mikey's doing. They just pick one or they pick the other, and usually they just pick the easier one. Mikey is doing the smart thing. He's got his money in the stock market. He loves having it grow. And if it is growing on average at, let's call it, 9.5, 10%, what he's doing is he's borrowing it at 3, 4, 5%, and he's saying, you know what, this is my opportunity at a double dip, and that is a super smart move. When you take a look at some of these numbers that we've been discussing, what's your final on this, Mikey?
Final, Kris, is listen, the S&P is fantastic. It is only 10%. However, you can leverage what you have in there and you can get ROIs, single, double, triple digit, infinite ROIs on business. This is the way to go. This is what you need to do if you want to make that money and be able to sit back and relax for the rest of your life.
Mike, you gotta say, brother, mad respect for what you've done and also for your philosophy, because you've found a way to access both. For you, my friend, it's not one or the other. It should be both. Mikey's got a lot of things right, but maybe most important, he loves the S&P because of how passive it is. People wish that real estate could be more passive. I'm sure more people would do it, and I got news for you. I've created the S&P 500 version of real estate, except instead of producing 10% in passive, it produces 25% on up and passive. And you know what that means? That means that over 20 years, it produces 27 times more money. And so if you're really serious about your financial future, you should ask yourself, how can I track all that real estate at a passive level and get in on it? And there's a link below for you to learn about partnering with me. Those that partner with me get access to being able to invest in the game, but you don't have to go out to the property. You don't have to get on planes. You don't have to talk to tenants. I take care of all that. I make it go away in the way that we handle our partnership. So if you want to learn more about that, get in on that game, click the link below and let me show you what partnering can do to make it totally passive, but literally up the ante on that ROI. So I have mad respect for Mikey and his strategy. The question is, do I also put my money in the S&P 500 and then pull it out to put in real estate? And for me, I don't. And the reason why is because I will have my money safely earning closer to 4, 5, or 6%, but not fluctuate in going up or down, because single digits will never get me exactly where I want to go. On the 30-year average, Mikey's right. But me, I want to be able to access my money in both an up and a down market, and I don't want to access it when it's down 20 or 30% like it is right now. I use a different strategy, and if you want to know how I'm earning 4, 5, 6% super stable on my money, I want to introduce you to a different friend of mine. His name is Rob Gill, and he and I made this video right here for you.